Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the St. Louis podcast. I'm your host today, Eric Brown, president of iMedia and partner at Mogul Holdings. Today, we have Matt Gerlach on the St. Louis podcast, and we're going to get into the weeds with him and his business. But before we do, as always, this St. Louis podcast each and every Friday, 7 a.m. Central Standard Time. We drop an episode on all major podcasting, audio, and video platforms where we meet with the most badass people and creators, talk about business, entrepreneurship, and current events. Matt, how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you today?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. It's been a good week. Later today, I'm having a nice little holiday party with a bunch of people I network. So I'm excited. And I'm trying a new restaurant later tonight as well. So it's
Cool.
it's been good. And then yeah, like I told you before, I was running late because we had an episode on Marketing Monday for my marketing business where we talked about a year in review, all of our clients, what we've learned, our wins. So that was a good conversation, so I'm coming into this on a high point for sure. So, Matt here, entrepreneur, author, and coach specializing in transformation and alignment. Helped three global brands surpass 100 million in annual revenue, founding of a consulting firm that built dozens of 7 and 8-figure businesses, leader of the Abundance Activation Mastermind program, currently finishing a memoir. Matt, thank you again for joining us. So, the first question, I have is when it comes to, helping out these, coming in from a consulting perspective, right? Uh, it seems to me, and actually I'll kind of preface this by saying, when it comes to marketing, right? When it comes to myself, selling my marketing agency, sometimes when it comes to bigger companies, say middle size, maybe, they're in the 50 or maybe that's still small size business, but they're in like, the over $50 million range. It almost helps to come in as a consultant, right? Instead of coming in as a marketing agency and trying to sell services because they almost want you to come in as a consultant, it seems like, to come in, it's easier for them to swallow instead of trying to pitch a whole plan. You're just like, "Hey, in my eyes, this is where you guys are standing now. Here is what should be done. If, you want this stuff to be done, we can do it. But if not, hey, here is this. This is what you guys should do, and then consult on that type of basis." But so when it comes to, consulting, what made you get into that? What's your background? What led you into really this space?
Well, I wish I had a more strategic story, but I was laid off from a job and I knew I didn't want to work for somebody else again.
Mhm.
I was excellent at selling, excellent at solving problems. And I knew I had more to offer and I knew I wanted a different lifestyle. And I, you know, I really didn't know like how um, I really didn't know what I was doing. I just started reaching out to companies and was like, I think I could help you. And it turned kind of from a consulting opportunity into a sales services firm. Um, it was incredible. I mean, it just absolutely was incredible. It changed my life. I helped change dozens of entrepreneurs' lives as well. And a big part of my story, I had a massive personal growth journey that became possible because of this leveling up I did. I mean, it was really incredible.
So when you got laid off, what were you doing previously?
So I had been in baby product sales
Okay,
for I'm kind of random. I moved from Los Angeles where even more random, I sold metal, so industrial
interesting.
supply sales. So
Okay.
it kind of, it's funny because like I'd always been like admonished when I was younger for switching jobs. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it turned out that all of this like experience that I had really set me up to help companies because I had so much different varying experience. But I was in consumer product sales, these baby product companies. And then I left for a year and went to a Silicon Valley software startup company, was the director of business development for them. And we were working with Walmart, Home Depot, and brands like Garmin and
Mhm.
Dyson. And the company had some cash flow issues, so they had to make some dramatic cuts. And I had made good money. I was doing my job well. I had learned business development in a way that I hadn't done before. Turning people who had no interest in speaking to me into customers, spending hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars. And yeah, I was laid off and went back to consumer products and found companies who I could sell their products for them. And there was a big gap in the market because a lot of my experience was in wholesale,
Okay.
and there's not a lot of wholesale people out there that know what I know. One of my clients, like, he told me, he was like, I never expected you, I knew you were a salesperson, but I never expected you to have the aptitude to be able to run inventory planning, to run operations, and kind of be the CEO next to him. So
Yeah, yeah. That makes a ton of sense, and congrats to you for actually making that jump and making that stride, because one of the things I kind of have talked about on the podcast before that frustrates me is those people that talk about starting a business or talk about leaving, and it never gets done. And that
mhm,
there's a few of those people, in my life, which is it's almost entertaining at this point, and also annoying. But it's either take that step or shut the hell up, you know what I mean?
mhm,
And so when it comes to you, you said you saw kind of an opening in the market, especially for you to go in and kind of help these businesses.
mhm.
What does it seem like to you? I'm curious. Why does it seem like there is really no one else kind of facilitating that role?
Well, I think about this a lot, like competition. I
Yep,
mean, we hear all the time, there's a lot of competition. Well, there's a lot of companies,
correct.
there's a lot. Like, I was talking to somebody yesterday, he's a podcast producer. And I mean, there's a lot of companies that are doing this now.
Mhm.
Guess what? There's a lot of podcasts,
A 100%.
So
Yep.
I think that it's less about like worrying about the competition and just more about like, are there 5 companies that I can help? I mean, we honestly, I think for anybody out there who's thinking about starting a business, or who's starting a business, I mean, there's 8 billion people in the world. Most of you who are listening probably need like 5 customers, 10, maybe 50, whatever.
Mhm.
If you're selling something, like a consumer product, you might need, 10,000, maybe 100,000. That's still like less than 1% of the population in the world. And for me, like, I saw an opportunity. Really, what was happening was, you know, how do I make this brief? But like, over the past like 8 years, when I started in this industry 15 years ago, I mean, you really had to have a couple $100,000 in capital at the very minimum to go to China, buy a container full of product.
Mhm.
And then what happened, and why I saw a hole in the market, was that things like Alibaba had come up, the globalization and the ability for any Tom, Dick, and Harry, or whatever it might be, to spend $10,000 and buy a pallet of a product. And if you knew how to design your own website, like, that's probably the hardest part of this, and a lot of people know how to do that now. So I saw that there was a lot of entry into the market, and I thought, these people need to know what I know, so I'm going to teach them what I know and perform services for them.
Yeah, that you bring up how anybody could just buy that kind of stuff, and when COVID hit 2020, me and my business partners, we're always, looking at new avenues to potentially make money. A lot of the time we don't take any action on it, but we were talking about we were just looking up what could you get on Alibaba, and it was like, you could buy a container full of, I think we were looking at like rice and salt and things like that. And I was like, I was doing some of the math. I was like, "Oh my god, the amount of money." But then obviously it's a food. We have no idea what we're looking at, right? We're just like, "Oh my god, we could get this massive thing of salt or
Mm.
whatever. It's not even that expensive. Bring it here and then sell it."
Hmm.
Um but, we've tried drop shipping and stuff like that, and what a nightmare that business is. Oh my
I
god,
agree.
it's really not a good business model, I don't think. Because really you're middlemaning a product, that you probably didn't even design, make, or to have anything with, right? So, okay. So when it comes to, you going into a business, what are some of the first things either you take a look at or first things that you are going to learn about that business by either talking to the owner, the employees, or things like that? What's kind of what do you really take a look at, say, over the first couple of times you're talking to a business? How do you know that you can make an impact, and what are some of those things you really take a look at?
it really comes down to the leadership and the owner. And like, most people can't sell. Most
Mhm.
people think like, oh, I could sell. It's like me
Yeah.
becoming the CFO of a company.
Yep.
Like, can I do it a little bit? Sure. Like, should I be? Absolutely not. you know I mean, I think, as an entrepreneur, we always have to like wear a lot of hats.
Mhm.
I'm the CEO of my own $1 million, I'm sorry, I'm the CFO of my own $1 million company. We can do that. You can be the salesperson for your own $1 million company. Without any sales experience, you can't be the salesperson for your $10 million company. Like, there's a science, there's a strategy behind it. And really, what I look for, it's just, as somebody running the company whose skill set is in production or in compliance or in finance, well, then they need someone like me who's been doing this for 25 years almost. Um, Excuse me.
No,
Sorry
you're
about
good.
that.
You're good.
Uh, but I mean, for me, what I understand is, I'll go in and I'll talk to the owner, to the head of revenue, whoever will talk to me, and just understand, like, get really deep and honest and vulnerable. Like, what's going on? Where are you selling? What are the hiccups? And if I can't find anything, if nothing pops up where I think I can benefit them, I move on. A lot of companies are doing very well. I mean, a lot of them do, they are maximizing a lot of their opportunities. What I do differently, I am a very realistic person, and almost leaning towards the side of pessimism.
Sure.
But it works because, I mean, I see so many companies that are like chasing after the wrong things. I'll use my example with wholesale. Like, for us, like, we sold like, the wholesale market for baby products has changed very much. There's not a lot of retailers out there anymore that sell baby products like this. So it's like, you know, I'm just making this up, like an opportunity like Macy's or something.
Mhm.
Macy's is like this is a 5-digit order after working for an entire year on something. Unless it happens to work for them, which, like, if you're selling a high-end product like I was, it didn't really work for them. So, like, why are we investing time in that? Like, we need to be spending time on the things that actually have the opportunity to grow into something.
Yep.
And I see this all the time. You walk in like, oh, I want my team to be doing more of this. Well, what does your team have to say? Well, the team says, we tried all this. Here are the failures. This is why. This is why. The owner is not listening to it. So we're spinning our wheels and nothing's getting done.
Mhm.
That's where I have something to sink my teeth into. I'm the guy that comes in and tells people things they don't want to hear. I'm also the guy who doesn't really get activated. I've worked at a lot of companies. I've learned it's not my baby. I just come in and do the best I can do. And if somebody doesn't want to listen to me, that's totally fine. I'm also very
Yep.
open to grow too. I don't know everything. There's been a lot of times I've been proven wrong, not as many as the times I've been proven right, but I'm very comfortable being proven wrong. But I think the biggest thing that I see when I come in is it's everyone's working in silos. I mean, it's been
Yep.
like there was a good year 2 years ago, and then since then, everyone's just doing things the way they've always been doing them. There's no like new blood in there. There's no one who's really like spearheading this. Like, why isn't product development talking to marketing, and why isn't marketing talking to sales, and why isn't sales talking to finance? And we're just all doing things the way we've always been doing them,
Mhm.
saying, oh, it's the economy, oh, there's no, like, there are ways to grow, or there's ways to stop the bleeding at the very minimum. But like, I have so many clients that I've worked with where it's like we're never even asking our customer. Like, I've seen them until I've come in, like, they're not even asking customers like feedback. They're not even figuring, they're not making a product roadmap based on what clients actually want. And a lot of them, it's like they're getting like, there'll be an Instagram comment that says you should make product X. Well, let's make product X. Let's invest all this time and money into something that one person said, because
Right.
why? It's an easy strategy to follow. It's easier to look at that Instagram comment than it is to actually get in the weeds. And
Mhm.
a lot of people just don't want to hear they don't want to hear negative news. A lot of business owners become their own worst enemy, and they alienate themselves. They ignore their team. Their team's ignoring their customers, and everyone's just doing what they can to appease the leadership of the company, and things aren't growing. And I come in and I help that all go away and
Yeah.
start working.
I think you said something interesting, which is when, the well, you said a few interesting things. So let's
Thanks.
one thing that we've actually talked about on this podcast before is the different teams not talking to each other. And really, a big issue I see, of course, coming from marketing background is marketing and sales, right?
Mhm.
Them, number one, either working too closely, right? Because there is a circumstance where sales is almost kind of telling marketing what to do, which they need input, but sales should not be directing marketing, I don't think, because then you have the situation of, like you were saying before, a salesperson could see, hey, this marketing avenue is going to work for like one person, right? But it's not going to work to get 5 or 100 more people, right? And then you have marketing, right? And I've talked to a bunch of marketing executives, and they never talk to the sales team.
Mhm.
They don't, and I'm like, your sales team is directly talking to the people that are buying the product,
Mhm.
so they have an intimate knowledge of what that person wants. And
Mhm.
if you have a bunch of clients, they have an intimate knowledge of what a bunch of clients want. In the marketing department, sure, they have analytics, they have data, right? But they don't have that firsthand knowledge and experience. And it seems like when you don't have, especially those 2 teams on the first page, on the same page, excuse me, that really creates rifts in businesses, because then you have those 2 teams not liking each other, not working together with each other, when I would say those might be the most important 2 teams in any given company to grow.
It's funny as a salesperson, mainly a salesperson, sales
Mhm.
manager, sales VP, whatever we want to call me, who also does some marketing stuff. I think marketing is the most important job at the company. I think marketing's turned into the most important job at the company. And there are some variations here. Like if you have, I'm like, I don't know, if you have like a company, like a wholesale company, you're selling something to Home Depot, your marketing efforts aren't necessarily like they're directed towards trade marketing, which is like
Yes.
a sales function, so that's a little bit different. But if you're selling a consumer product, your store, like your wholesale business, is in this day and age, it's driven by customers coming in that store and saying,
Mhm.
hi, I want protein bar Y, and then that store owner is calling the company and saying, I want to buy this. So I am completely aware, I mean, completely in agreement of what you're saying. And I mean, it all goes back to just the companies speaking together. And so many companies don't do that. And I love what you said at the beginning, which is why a consultant is so important. And there's a lot of consultants out there. I mean, I'm not saying like you need to choose who's right for you. I think it's all a personality. It's largely a personality type thing. Who's someone that you trust? Who's someone that you're going to want to work with? Who's someone that you feel like you can have confrontation with and get through it? But I think in this day and age, business is hard. I mean, it is harder than
Yeah.
ever right now. And the one thing that we can control right now is the people that work with us, like getting everyone happy, getting everyone on the same page, getting everybody talking. If you have great employees, value them, treat them well, have communication. Hey, the company's struggling right now. We can't do Christmas bonuses, but we're going to talk about it. And like, we're going to let you work from home an extra couple days a week or something because of it. But like, you've got to take care of people and create that trust so people are talking and so ideas are being formed, and somebody's got to make the decision as well, so it can't just be this like round table that goes nowhere. But when that
Yes.
happens,
Yep.
the person making the decision needs to transparently like bring that together. Hi everybody, I am the boss in this situation, a decision has to be made, I respect everything that you said, but we're going this way and this is why, and thank you and you for your input, and please keep it coming. No one's doing that.
Yeah, you have to, even at our company where we're a marketing agency, and obviously, there's some things that we do, services where it's not so much team based, right? But, and where people are almost, just sitting in their office all day working on one project, we have to purposely set up like collaboration, even if the client's not doing one of our services, maybe we still have that person in on a short meeting to at least give ideas, thoughts, and things like that about what another team member is working on. Because when you sit in like your own silo, right, you don't have that communication. You can't only rely on the employee to do that. And so I think it was actually at the beginning of last year where we were like, we really intelligently and purposely need to put this into our schedule on a weekly basis, Okay, sure, maybe 15 or 20 minutes of it's wasted in quotation marks. But if that 15-minute or 30-minute meeting where, people get together, they talk about some of the new clients, the projects we're working on and things like that. When they just come together and now they're more rejuvenated, energized for the rest of the day. And also, you just want your employees and people on your team talking to each other and hopefully to like each other, right?
Mhm.
Um, you need that kind of interaction to happen. Otherwise, a lot of the time is especially in different fields where you're in Google Ads or you're in SEO, a lot of that stuff is data driven, right? It's not like,
Mhm.
it's not going to be a super personable and it depends on the person, right? But if you go into a Google Ads agency, half of those people are going to be in quotation marks what a normal person would consider a nerd, right? Because they look at the data, they have the analytics, and that's what they will talk about. Um,
Mhm.
versus, someone on social media where of course they look at analytics, but really we're focused on content, right? We're focused on what are people engaging with? How do we get this messaging out there? When you bring them all together, it makes the team work together and everyone kind of on the same page. So doing that intelligently. Now, when it comes to being a consultant, when you go into a business, I've always thought about this. It seems like a consultant is really a nice thing to have, especially when you're having confrontation within a business, either with the business owners themselves, them and team members, or just really stuff not getting done that needs to get done, or stuff not working appropriately. Because you could come in almost as an independent third party, right?
Mhm.
And it's not, say two business owners, they own, they own the business 50-50. They're fighting on what to do. Well, you could come in and essentially, obviously, your job isn't to mediate, but be honest with those people. And that's the other thing I was going to say that I think probably differentiates you. And also, I do this as well as I'm very upfront and honest with our clients, right? And you have to be.
Mhm.
Um, Otherwise, you're going to put yourself in a position like most salespeople, which I'm sure you've went through a ton of sales pitches where it's just them giving you what you want to hear the whole time and just trying to get the sale. Sure, that works for some people, but most people, it's just like cut through the bullshit. What, where are we actually at? What do we need to do? Is this going to work or not? If it maybe is going to work, if it's maybe something that's worked in the past but hasn't worked, be honest, be upfront, and properly set expectations, especially in our line of work 'cause you're dealing with people's money, and if you're not, if you're just gonna be a marketing agency and throwing those dollars to pray to God that that stuff is going to work, that's not gonna work out for your business. You're not gonna be in business for a long time, and obviously, those clients are not gonna like you as well.
Mhm.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mhm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years, and in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your
Mhm.
favorite podcast, the St. Louis podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Mhm. Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes, it would be.
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the
Yes.
podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast. So when it, is a lot of the time when you go into a business, is there, some sort of issue already going on? Or because I feel like it's easier for you to go in versus, they think everything is fine and then you go
Mhm.
in and find issues, right? So what are your thoughts on that?
I would say it's 50-50. A lot of the businesses that I've worked with, I did start kind of at the beginning. Like I came in, they didn't have the solutions that I offered going at all. So I
Gotcha.
I
Okay.
started from the ground up and built for them. But I've seen I'm kind of a little bit more interested at this point in coming in where there are issues because I've seen more issues than the average person by a
Mhm.
long shot. And it's like you know what to do. I mean, I don't have a dog in the fight a lot of times. So it's like, I can come in impartially and say, I've seen this a dozen times. I've seen this 50 times. And I think one of the things that you said that's so important is like a lot of different solutions work. What I see a lot of businesses doing is like they invest 3 months into this and they abandon it because they like give up and they try something new. So there's this one client that I worked with, and that was, in my opinion, a big part of the business's demise. Just years and years went by, and it was just constantly switching gears. Like, let's try this, let's try that. We need to fire this person and try this person. It's been 3 months. That person's not doing well. Let's fire them again. I mean, let's fire that position again and rehire. And it's
Yep.
just like that's a problem. So it's like a lot of times like clients are looking for this magic bullet, but there's not a magic bullet. The magic bullet is really somebody coming in and diagnosing the personnel issues, the communication issues, the strategy issues, and the strategy meaning that we need to pick a lane and stay in it and not spread ourselves so thin. And that's really where I have a big passion on working with people with. I've seen so much money and time wasted. And that's really, yeah, I care. I mean, I'm at a place in my career right now where I really have a passion for helping people reduce or completely stop the mistakes they're making and move forward productively. And like I mean the thing is like that I'm sure you see this a lot too. Like it's really hard to find good employees right now.
Yeah.
A lot of
Yes.
good employees are, they're starting their own businesses. They like a lot of people have money and they're like, I don't want to work this hard anymore. And I think that now I've never seen this in my entire career where like it's so hard to find good people. If you have good employees, you need to treasure them like
Yes.
they are like worth their weight in gold. Because
Mhm.
if they're gone, almost guaranteed you're not going to find somebody else that's going to be as good as they are at this point right now. People are burnt out, and um
I read that there's 18% of people happy with their job.
yeah, so I've heard similar statistics. I mean,
Or
I think it's
I forgot exactly how they worded
yeah.
it, but they feel engaged at their job, something
Mm.
18%. And I'm like, that's horrible. That
Well,
is
you think of how many people do you know that are being forced to drive an hour and a half to the office every day of the week to go to a stupid meeting that was running fine on Zoom for the past 3 years? I get it.
yeah.
Being in person might be a tiny bit more effective in some situations, but you got to care about people. And I think, like I hear this sometimes where it's like, I mean, oh, this person makes good money, and it's like, an eighth of what the person saying that makes. It's like,
Yes.
you know, I
Yes.
mean, it's good money for a 22-year-old back in 1995, but
Exactly.
it's not good money for a 35-year-old in 2025 or 2024. I mean,
Yes.
you got to put yourself in people's shoes and be like, would I be happy with this? If the answer is not, then they probably aren't either.
Yeah, LA's crazy with traffic. That's for
Oh,
sure.
it's horrible.
I couldn't I don't care how much money I made. And maybe if someone, just was like, "Hey, $1,000,000 a year." Okay, maybe. And I'll get to that point. All right. I'll get there in my life, hopefully in making that amount of money on a yearly basis. But I don't I cannot fathom driving 3 hours a day. I couldn't do it. Uh, yeah, so the nice thing is here in St. Louis, at least, everyone works within like 25 minutes. So
Mhm,
even then, it's 50 minutes a day. It sounds like a lot. I do think about it. We work from home every Friday. So I will say
mhm,
we do give our people some time off. Well, you know, working from home is interesting. I will say that because it's all, because, I've talked to a ton of people about it, not so much anymore, but, really last year we kind of had that discussion a lot of the time. It's like, is it as conducive as having people come into the office? But then there are so many factors that go into it, right?
mhm,
It's almost like it's hard to even have an intelligent conversation on it because what businesses are looking at it is strictly from a standpoint of production, right?
mhm,
So the business owner is like, we look at it from these 6 months, they work from home, 3 days or whatever days a week. We look at it, these 6 months, they worked, they came into the office every single day. And all they look at it is like one metric from a metric of production, right? But they're not looking at it from a metric of, let's just say, do your people still want to work there? What is the
What are the
happiness
inputs?
of your actual employees? Like there's so much stuff that goes into it because you're well aware, right? You could skew a lot of data to be either in
Mhm,
or not in your favor based on
mhm,
based on what you're looking at. So the work from home thing is very, it's really hard because there are, and to be completely honest, I think this goes back to how old you are. I really do feel like, and I don't know why this is, that the older you are, if you're in your 40s or 50s, a lot of those people don't have issues working from home. It seems like the younger generation really has the issues from working from home. I don't know if they're just more prone to distractions, but also from a standpoint of, I was thinking about this and I was listening to a podcast talk about this. They were like, the big thing that if you work from home, say, and you're in your 20s, the big thing now you're missing out on is actually going to the office and getting that interaction with people. And that's one big thing I think that a lot of people are missing out on. But, obviously if you got a family and things like that, it makes it a completely different discussion. So it's almost like we need to look at it from a person on person basis in a company, and also have a conversation with those people as well independently to figure out what's going to work best for those people. Because again, if you're trying to keep the best employees, you probably want to figure out that type of information,
mhm.
right?
I
Because Go
I
ahead,
mean, I
yeah.
couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we're on the exact same page. I mean, it's a convoluted topic that is not straightforward. You need to look at the inputs. I mean, sales aren't good. Well, do we have inventory? Are we out of stock of a lot of items? Well, like getting people to the office isn't going to help that problem. It's just going to further exacerbate it. And I am a proponent of being in the office sometimes. I'm 41 years old. I'm very mature as well. I think that there's a certain like, level, whatever it be, age or maturity, where people should be able to make those decisions for themselves.
Yep.
I have a friend who has to drive very far for work, like an hour and a half each way. And it is not ideal, but I can tell you that he is okay doing it most of the time because it's what the job requires and it helps him do his job better. Generally, people aren't like, we're doing it if there's a reason, but like if you're the boss and you're throwing a meeting on the calendar at 3:30 on a Friday afternoon that has to be that has to be in person, that's not cool. I mean, you need to have compassion for the situation. I am doing a lot more in-person events and meeting people in person now than I have in the past like 8 years. I like it. It is nice. And I am voluntarily getting in the car, driving from my home to like Santa Monica at least once, if not twice or three times a week. It's like, I like it. Being in person is good,
Hmm.
but I want to make that choice. And I think that, and I'm fine making it with my employer. I mean, if I had a full time job, I'd be fine making it with them, but it should be a collaboration. And honestly, if I'm performing at a stellar level, I should have different privileges than the person that's not. And
Correct. Not life isn't fair. That's another thing as
life isn't
well.
fair.
Is the so then you're gonna have to navigate the waters of employees potentially being jealous based off of, maybe not jealous, whatever the word is you want to use there, but them looking at it like it's not fair. But then obviously if you have that conversation with everyone and everyone has the understanding, then you're not going to have that issue.
And
Uh,
do better.
yeah, I
Do
think
your job better.
exactly. I think that a lot of the reason that a lot of these larger companies now, even in California, are making these people come into the office 3 days a week. Here's my theory. It's not even a hot take. They want people to quit.
Mm. Yeah, I don't disagree. And I don't think 3 days a week is unreasonable. I mean, 2 days is really nice, but like three
Mhm.
days, I don't really have anybody in my life that's going to the office 3 days and griping about it, you know?
No, I wouldn't.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's,
Compared to them probably working 5 days a week in the office 5 years
yeah.
ago. Yeah. Because
And
I
I think
didn't
with this,
know many people that worked from home before COVID. Like,
yeah.
not from a like you almost had like the work from home people that weren't, you know what I mean, weren't really working
Mhm.
from home. But now people professionally work from home.
Hmm. I think that this all kind of ties back to just like treating employees well. And a lot of the problems in businesses aren't necessarily these like, I mean, we think it's like, oh, if I, change the packaging of my product, then everything's going to be fixed. No, if
Right.
you get to the root of like why your employees are, not motivated, that's probably that's more the problem a lot of times than not. And I think that, I mean, even massive companies don't see that, they want to just like, I mean, they ignore the people issue. And I mean, I live in California. Life is very expensive right now. I mean, I can't believe that, just like a few years ago, 200,000 bucks a year was like a pretty nice salary. And I
Mhm.
mean, it's not like not anymore, but in California, you're not buying a house making 200,000 bucks a
It's
year.
crazy to say that.
You're probably not buying a house making 300. And if you have a dual income, I mean, if you're married with kids and if you're making 400, you're probably not buying a house in a very nice area either at this point. It's very expensive to live here. And it's not that, I mean, it's the same way everywhere. I mean, property values are double what they were 10 years ago, just about everywhere in America.
Well, St. Louis used to be affordable.
Hmm.
When it comes to, I'll say it's still affordable, but housing prices are insane here.
Yeah.
Just finding like I'm single. I want like, give me a 2 bed, 2 bath or something. Give me
Hmm.
something to work with. And it's either you're buying an absolute hunk of shit for like, inexpensive, and then hopefully you can figure out all the issues and fix it,
Hmm.
or it's like, $500,000 or something like
Hmm.
that, which 4 years ago or 3 years ago would have been literally half that cost.
Yeah.
So it's entirely dependent on where you are because there's housing prices coming back down now as well. So that I could have a whole episode on housing prices
We
because
could.
that shit pisses me off. All right. Well, Matt, thank you for joining. As always, this has been another episode. Before we get out of here, please tell the people where they can find you.
Yeah, I really appreciate your time today. It's been great connecting with you, and thank you for the chat. I'm glad that it was fun talking about this with you. So, in addition to consulting, I really moved into a coaching business as well. So, I really thrive on working with founders and executives, building lives and businesses that make them fulfilled. So, I would love to have the opportunity to speak with anybody who is interested, whether it be sales or business or overall career fulfillment advice and consulting and coaching. My website is mattgerlach.com. And if you go to my website, I have a free download. It's a workbook that will get you going on starting to uncover what you want for your life and your business to be. And in that workbook, you can schedule a free 45-minute call with me. So I'm an open book. I have 20 plus years experience and just at this point in my life, happy to serve people and help them build abundant lives. So thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Matt, it's been a pleasure. That's all the time we have for today. However, we will be back next week with a new episode, new guest, and more of the podcast. We'll see you next week. Thank you.
Hey there, St. Louis podcast listeners. We've got some exciting news from our friends over at Farmers Insurance of St. Louis, led by the man, the myth, the legend, Mark Lee of Farmers Insurance.
Mm-hmm.
If you're looking for a job or to own your own business under a brand that everyone and their cousin is familiar with, Mark Lee with Farmers Insurance of St. Louis is recruiting insurance agency owners here in St. Louis for their Farmers Insurance Mentorship Program.
And as many of you are aware, Garrett and I have owned quite a few successful and award-winning businesses over the years. And in a past life, one of those was a farmer's insurance agency out of Chesterfield, Missouri.
Eric and I know firsthand how hard it is to start a business under a brand that no one has heard of and convince consumers and businesses to trust that you're an authority figure in your industry.
And as many of you know, we own an award-winning marketing firm, Vi Media, the one that Garrett was just discussing. And building that company's reputation literally took years. We're still building it to this day, and it's been 8 years in the making. However, with the Trusted Farmers Insurance Agency name on the building, we got started when we started our Farmers Insurance Agency. The trust was already built and has been for 96 years.
And if you can't do math, that means Farmers Insurance has been around since 1928. Luckily, you don't need to be a human calculator to get rich as an owner of your very own Farmers Insurance Agency.
Nope. All you have to do is reach out to the one and only Mark Lee, the leader of Farmers Insurance in the greater St. Louis metropolitan area.
That's right. So ensure he continues to sponsor our show and your favorite podcast, the St. Louis podcast, by quitting your job today and calling Mark Lee. I wouldn't even wait for him to answer your call. Call your boss now, quit, and become your very own business owner.
Visit insurancecareerstl.com. That is insurancecareerstl.com. Should we spell it out?
Yes. It would
INSURANCE, career, CAREER, STL.com, insurancecareerstl.com. Go there now. Back to the podcast.
And wait, insurancecareerstl.com.
Back to the podcast.